I'm going to tell you something that will sound completely insane. While I was dead, and I mean clinically dead, no heartbeat, no brain activity for 4 minutes and 18 seconds, I floated above my body in the operating room and watched a nurse drop a pen, a specific pen, blue, with a chewed cap. It rolled under a cabinet in the corner. When I woke up 3 days later, I told them about it. The nurse went pale. She'd been looking for that pen her entire shift. She found it exactly where I said. I was a trauma surgeon. I'd pronounced over 200 people dead. I knew what death looked like, smelled like, sounded like, and I knew, absolutely knew, that when your brain stops, you stop. There is no soul, no afterlife, no God. I was wrong about all of it. But here's what terrified me most. When I met Jesus, he didn't match a single thing I'd been taught in 30 years of Sunday school. My name is Dr. Marcus Chen. For 15 years, I worked in one of the busiest trauma centers in Chicago. I saw miracles, the medical kind, where a skilled team brings someone back from the edge. And I saw senseless tragedy. Kids who'd never take another breath. Mothers who'd never hold their babies again. I'd grown up evangelical. Youth camps, mission trips, the whole thing. But medical school had quietly dismantled my faith, brick by brick. How could a loving God allow a 6-year-old to bleed out from a gunshot wound meant for someone else? How could prayer matter when I'd seen it fail 1,000 times on my operating table? By the time I was 38, I'd become what you'd call a functional atheist. I didn't talk about it with my family. My mother still prayed for me every night. But inside, I'd made peace with a godless universe. Then came February 9th, 2019. I was driving home after a 16-hour shift. The kind of tired where your eyes burn and you forget you're steering 2 tons of steel. The highway was slick, black ice, invisible under the streetlights. I remember seeing the semi-truck's brake lights flare red. Too close, impossibly close. I yanked the wheel. The sound, God, the sound was like a thunderclap inside a tin can. Metal screaming, glass exploding into 1,000 stars. I felt my ribs crack. 3 sharp pops, like someone snapping pencils against my chest. The steering column crushed into my sternum, and I tasted copper. Blood. My blood. The smell hit me next. Gasoline, hot and chemical, mixing with the iron-thick scent of my own bleeding. My left lung had collapsed. I knew it immediately. That desperate, drowning sensation, like breathing through a coffee stirrer. Then I heard my own heartbeat. Slow, irregular, fading. I thought, this is it. This is what I've seen 100 times. I'm dying. And then I felt nothing. The pain stopped. Not gradually, instantly, like someone had flipped a switch. I opened my eyes, or I thought I opened my eyes, and I was floating. Actually floating? About 8 feet above my crumpled car. I could see my body slumped against the deployed airbag, blood running from my nose and mouth. I could see the truck driver climbing down from his cab, his face white with horror, hands shaking as he reached for his phone. I should have been terrified. I should have been trying to get back to my body. But I felt light, weightless, like I'd been carrying a 100-pound backpack my entire life, and someone had just lifted it off my shoulders. Then I heard the sirens, saw the ambulance arrive, the paramedics cutting through my door. I watched them intubate me, watched the whole scene like I was directing a movie. I saw the blue pen fall from the nurse's pocket when she leaned over to check my pupils. Saw it roll under the cabinet. I tried to tell her, tried to shout, "Hey, your pen!" But I had no voice, no body. Then something pulled me. Not physically. It was more like being summoned. Like every atom in my consciousness was being called home to a place I'd never been, but somehow recognized. The hospital disappeared. I was standing in a garden. But garden is too small a word. Imagine every beautiful place you've ever seen. Yosemite at sunrise. Your grandmother's backyard in summer. That one perfect beach. Compressed into a single, impossible space. The grass was greener than green, so vivid it almost hurt. The air tasted like honey and rain. Flowers I'd never seen before swayed in a breeze that felt alive, like it was breathing with me. The light was everywhere. Not from a sun, there was no sun, but from the air itself, from the ground, from me. It was warm, like standing in front of a fireplace on the coldest night of your life. But it didn't burn. It loved. I know how that sounds. Light can't love. But I'm telling you, this light was aware. It knew me. Not the me I pretended to be. Not the doctor, or the son, or the man who cut people off in traffic. It knew the real me. Every shadowed corner, every secret shame, and it loved me anyway. Then I saw them. 2 figures stood at the edge of the garden. They glowed with the same light. Softer, gentler, but unmistakable. One was an elderly woman. I knew her instantly, my grandmother, who died when I was 12. She looked exactly as I remembered, but younger somehow, radiating this impossible joy. She smiled. Marcus? Oh, sweetheart. Not yet, but we wanted you to see. See what? I tried to say, but again, no voice, just thought. And she heard it. Him, she said, and stepped aside. And there he was. Jesus! Except, he wasn't white. He wasn't blue-eyed or blonde-haired like every painting I'd seen in Sunday school. His skin was olive brown, his hair dark and curly. He wore simple robes, dusty at the hem, like he'd been walking for miles. But it was his eyes that undid me. They were deep, ancient, oceans of compassion and sorrow and knowing. When he looked at me, I felt like every wall I'd ever built just crumbled. Every defense, every argument, every intellectual shield I'd constructed to keep God out. Gone. He didn't speak with words. He didn't need to. His presence spoke. And what it said was, I have always been here. You have always been loved. You have always been mine. I fell to my knees, or what felt like knees. Tears poured down my face. Not from sadness, from relief. The kind of soul-deep relief you feel when you finally stop running and realize you're already home. I didn't believe in you, I thought. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He knelt beside me, placed a hand on my shoulder. It felt like sunlight and bedrock and your mother's hand all at once. I know, he said, not aloud, but inside me. But I always believed in you. Then he stood, extended his hand. Come, I want to show you something. We walked, or glided, I'm not sure, to a place that had no walls, no ceiling, but felt enclosed, safe, sacred. And then my life began to play. Not on a screen, not like a movie. I became it. I was suddenly 6 years old again, pushing my sister off the swing set because she'd gotten a toy I wanted. But this time, I didn't just see it from my perspective. I was my sister. I felt her head crack against the ground, felt the sharp bolt of pain shoot through her skull, felt her confusion. Why would he hurt me? I thought he loved me, and the seed of distrust that planted itself in her heart that day. The grief was unbearable. I wanted to scream, to apologize, but the review kept moving. I was 18, mocking a classmate for his stutter. I felt his humiliation, hot and acidic, crawling up his throat. Felt how he'd go home and cry in the bathroom, how he'd start skipping school to avoid me. I was 25, ignoring a homeless man who asked for help. I felt his hunger, the gnawing, hollow ache, and his shame at having to beg. Felt how my dismissive glance made him feel invisible, less than human. Every careless word, every selfish choice, every moment I'd chosen convenience over compassion. I lived it all, from their side. I sobbed, begged for it to stop. The weight of the pain I'd caused, not just physical pain, but soul pain, the kind that lingers for years, crushed me. But Jesus stood beside me, his hand on my back. Do you see now? He asked gently. Do you see how powerful you are? How every choice ripples outward? I'm a monster, I thought. No, he said firmly. You're human, and you're learning. Then the review shifted. I was 22, staying late to help a fellow med student study. I felt her side of it now. Her panic about failing, the exam that could derail her entire career. And then the relief, the gratitude, the way my patients made her believe in herself again. I was 31, holding a patient's hand as she died. I felt her fear melt away, replaced by peace. She wasn't alone. I'd given her that. I was 36, anonymously paying for a family's groceries when their card declined. I felt the father's desperation transform into shock, then tears, then hope. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, radiated outward like light. I saw how a single smile to a stranger had changed the course of their day, which changed how they treated their kids, which changed their kids' futures. I saw the web, the infinite, glittering web of connection, and I understood. Life isn't a test, Jesus said. It's a forge. You're here to learn to love, to choose love when it's hard, when it costs you something, when no one's watching. That's what you take with you. I failed, I whispered. You're still learning, he corrected, and you're going back to keep learning. What? Panic seized me. No, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. He smiled, sad, knowing. You're not finished, Marcus. You have work to do, people to love, and this time, you'll remember. The garden faded. I felt my grandmother kiss my forehead, felt Jesus' hand squeeze my shoulder one last time. Then, pain, searing, white-hot, everywhere pain. My ribs screaming, my lung burning. Beeping machines, fluorescent lights. I gasped, choking on the ventilator tube. Nurses swarmed. Someone shouted, "He's back! He's back!" I'd been gone for 4 minutes and 18 seconds. When I could finally speak, 3 days later, I told them about the pen. The nurse cried. The doctors called it a hallucination, neurological misfiring, lack of oxygen. But I knew. I knew because I came back different. Not just mentally, physically. My EEG showed changes. My brain activity in areas associated with empathy and compassion had increased dramatically. I started feeling people's emotions like they were my own. But more than that, I came back with a mission. I quit surgery 6 months later, started volunteering at hospice centers, sitting with dying patients, holding their hands, telling them it's okay to let go, that something beautiful is waiting. I reconciled with my sister, with my mother, with the parts of myself I'd ignored for decades. I stopped living like death was the end. I started living like every moment mattered, every interaction, every choice. Because I know now, I know that we're all connected. That love isn't some abstract concept, it's the fabric of reality itself. And Jesus, he's not some distant judge waiting to condemn us. He's there, in the garden, in the light, in every act of kindness, waiting to remind us who we really are. If you're watching this and you're skeptical, good. I was too. I needed proof, and I got it. But here's what I want you to take from my story. You don't have to die to start living like this. You don't have to wait for a near-death experience to realize that this life, right now, is your chance to learn love. Every person you meet is a teacher. Every hardship is a classroom. Every choice is your opportunity to add light to the world or take it away. Don't wait. I almost did, and I would have missed everything. The love you give becomes the only thing you take with you.